Unmuting and you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will go ahead and call to order this special meeting of the Board of Education, and we'll begin the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. This evening on our consent agenda, we have quite a few items. I'm just going to go through them quickly before we take action. We have approval of our January 20th, 2026 regular meeting minutes, approval of the February 5th, 2026 special meeting minutes, approval of the February 18th special joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen minutes, approval of the February 18th special meeting minutes, approval of an out-of-state field trip for the Portland Middle School Band and Chorus to Agawam, Massachusetts on June 3rd, approval of an out-of-state field trip for Portland High School DECA to Atlanta, Georgia in April, and approval of a Planet Aid donation to Brownstone in the amount of $33.50, and approval of the Middlesex Hospital Vocal Cords building usage application in May 1st and 2nd. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Meg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. Is there any discussion on any of those items or desire to pull any of the items off the consent agenda? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Audience of citizens. Do we have anybody?
Nobody about us
Nope.
online.
Okay, right. We'll keep it moving then. Communications and updates. We have an update from Dr. Britton.
Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you for being here like this again. Another canceled meeting, but I did want to get together tonight because we have one piece of pressing business in particular that can't wait. So I'll go through these relatively quickly, although I don't want to go too fast. I do have some important updates and some meaningful things that are happening. First, I have the enrollment report. Can I point out we're at 1201 students. Last year at this time we were at 1209. Again, not much has changed. Any questions on the enrollment?
Always good to see you.
Yep. Keep rolling here. A couple of retirements. Leslie O'Rourke has been with us for 3 years. She's a paraprofessional, but she also has a very specialized skill set. She's our Braille specialist. She was working with our student who required that particular set of skills. Wonderful job. She worked in our transition program. Going to miss her an awful lot. And thank her for her service here.
Charles, can we ask quickly about that? With her last day being May 28th, is there a plan in place to support that student through the end of the year? Is that going to pose a problem that in a couple weeks?
I'm sure there is, but I'm not prepared to talk about it.
Okay, all right,
If you'd like, I can find out and get back to you, but I am confident Sarah's on top of it.
great.
So let me make sure.
Thank you.
Move back to that. Also, longtime employee, retirement. This came in a little bit late, but I do want to point out that Lisa Kaczynski has been here since the 1980s. Very, very, very long time. Years of dedicated service across all of our buildings. I very much am looking forward to celebrating this retirement and diving into that file to share with you lots of many, many great things and many, many great years. So I did include her letter in there, and we wish her a very long, healthy, and happy retirement. And again, look forward to celebrating that with her this year. So we have 2 retirees this year, Isha and Lisa. Okay, did include in your form, your packet. Do you remember last time we approved changes to the homebound tutoring policy and you asked to see what the forms were going to look like? If you remember, you don't approve the forms or the regulations, you just approve the policy, but you had asked to take a look at those forms that Sarah updated. So those were included in your packet.
They were in the digital packet.
They were in the digital packet. I do not have it. Happy to take any feedback on them. Otherwise, if you have any questions, those are what we would start to use in cases where parents and families need to request not tutoring for illness, injury, other. Hopefully, we don't use it often, but it's there when we.
Yeah, and Sarah worked to make these forms work better for the district.
Correct.
Great.
Any questions on those? All right, feel free to take a look at them. If you do have questions, shoot me an email or Sarah an email, and then she'll be doing her report next week. You can also quiz her then if you need. Couple things I just did include for you tonight. There are lots of action going on in Hartford these days. I
Mhm.
just wanted everybody to be aware of some of them.
Mhm.
Couple ones that I'm monitoring closely. I'm just going to go through these very quickly. There's a lot of chatter about changing some of the homeschooling laws in the state. So Connecticut has very lax, I would describe it as a very not very heavily regulated homeschooling practice. Parents largely just sign a form, check some boxes that say that they're providing an equivalent education. There's not a lot of expectation from either any state entity, essentially. There is a lot of talk about changing that to make it a little bit more oversight. The challenge, of course, is who's going to provide that oversight. Is it going to fall to a new agency? Is it going to fall to DCF? Is it going to fall to the public school system? Is it something the superintendent will have to put together? Lots of chatter about that. We will have to watch that very closely. I hope it doesn't become another, wait for it,
Mhm.
unfunded mandate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if this is something that is going to be a very time consuming and intensive oversight process that boards of education would have to manage, would that mean we'd have to hire secretaries or people or commit more time to this? I don't know the answers to that, but I know Kate Capps is watching it very carefully, and so am I.
We have
Because
provided testimony, Cave and Caps both, and what they're saying is they want DCF, so if a child is homeschooled, they want that information reported to DCF, which has been very adamant about not taking that on as it's not about abuse, it's not about neglect, it's parents' right to choose to do that, but they don't want to be involved in monitoring that. So it does fall on other entities, including the school district. So we want to fight that completely.
yeah, I mean, I think it would be beneficial to have some greater oversight of homeschooling practices? I do. If that law were passed and additional funding were provided for districts to hire the personnel to provide that oversight, I would be happy to implement it.
Right.
My fear is that we do not have any funds in next year's budget for that. And if it becomes an unfunded mandate, that will be a concern. So I just, want you to be aware, because, these are more of the financial sides of it that we gotta be careful. I mean, again, laws are good intentioned. I just hope that they're done the right way with the appropriate level of training and oversight and supervision, both so that it's not an uncomfortable task, like one that might be adversarial in some way, but also this is work. I mean, this is labor and happy to do it, but need the systems and guidance and professional development systems and policies to do it. So watch that space. Very happy to hear that there's lots of discussion. I saw a great video on WFSB about some students that went to the legislature to advocate for an increase in the base amount for the ECS grant. That was a great look. So kudos
That's
to
cool
those
to hear.
students that went and did that. I wish I had known. I would have done some of ours too, right?
I'm glad you said
Yeah.
that, because I've seen, especially New Haven has been really good
Yeah.
at encouraging students and facilitating students to travel to the Capitol to testify on relevant specifically bills about funding. But I was there last year testifying when a group of students came to testify, and it was really cool to see
Really
them engaging with the political process that way.
Love-
We need to find opportunities for Connecticut students to.
They do
Yeah.
perk up. Those education committee members do listen when students are there. They also testified about Islamophobia, which was a bill yesterday when it came out. So
Well, I saw that. I was really impressed with those kids. I thought it was cool, and now it's on my radar. So
Good.
Yeah.
we'll see. I
Let's
think,
think about that
we've
for
gotten
next
good at
session.
advocating. Maybe I can,
Yeah.
get maybe some of our students or student government. It would be awesome. I would happily pay for a bus or put them on one of our vans and send them.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's,
Good.
that was cool, right? That was great.
Not last week, but the week before, just so you all know, I did go to Hartford to testify. I testified for in front of the Appropriations Committee, and then a couple days later in front of the Education Committee, specifically about education funding and the foundation rate for the ECS formula. But I wanted to share with you all that our first selectman, Mike Pelton, went up with me to the Appropriations Committee, and we testified together, which was a really great experience. And I was very grateful that he was interested in speaking on behalf of the community. So this is not that it's not just an education problem, it's not just a school district problem, that our towns and our schools are in this together. So I was really glad that Mike was willing to go up to Hartford with me.
Well, look, I would just say this too. This year, we benefited from last year's legislative actions with the seed grant and the drip
Yeah.
fund, right? Let's hope we're in a good mood this summer, right? With a change in the ECS calculations, right? I know it's going to be, and we're going to begin it next week, a very difficult budget year, right? That it would be wonderful if that base grant were raised this year at the same time that we're moving this through this spring with our current budget, and more on our current budget when Stephanie's here in 2 weeks.
And I will say from being up there, Charles, that there's a really good feeling around, it seems like there's bipartisan support for making some real serious strides to start adjusting the ECS formula in this legislative session and not pushing it off to future years. So I'm feeling a little bit optimistic that we're going to see some movement there this year.
We should follow that because there are about 3 different versions of how
Yeah.
they want to increase it. The technically 41% inflation rate would bring it to 16,000. It's been stuck at 11,225 or whatever.
I think it's going to be baby
And
steps.
And it may be baby steps, but and there may be additional weights. So we need to look at that, make sure that it's going to be something that's going to benefit everybody.
Yep.
There's been a lot
Agreed,
of
agreed.
testimony.
Right, so let's watch these carefully.
Yep.
Yeah.
Couple other fiscal ones. I did include a summary of some of the laws that are going on up there just to keep an eye on. One that's very interesting is there's talk about making free universal breakfast, which is great. That's part of the governor's proposal. That would be very helpful, and I think it's a great way for kids to start the school day. So we'll keep an eye on that one. In terms of our school building project, I love this raised bill number 5147. I'm just going to quote one line from it. It maintains and refines existing incentives, add-ons for priorities such as early childhood spaces in district special education programming, diversity lighthouse schools, full day kindergarten and preschool, open choice and compliance. So that's the keeping the funding, which is at this year we know 53.9%, right? And then the 15% for pre-K and the 5% for open choice. That's great. So let's watch that one very carefully. Also, there's a lot of talk about, of course, we'll point out the phone-free schools. We're already there. So be it. Pass the law. We're good. But then I really like this one about the possibility of the reducing testing burden, right? So Chuck's going to be talking to the curriculum committee about this one. I'll just quote from it. Create an incentive program for districts that limit testing time, use formative assessments effectively, and strengthen teacher skills. Like, let's finally, we're still kind of in this like no child left behind accountability place, right? I would love to see us, spend less time prepping for SBAC and more time using formative assessments. Not that the accountability metrics are bad in and of themselves, but they're still one-time high-stakes tests. And if we could get to more of an interim-based way to assess kids and monitor growth over the year and not wait till that one day in March, I'm hoping that this is movement in that direction. At the same time, last time we fell asleep on standardized testing, we woke up the next day with no child left behind and adequate early progress and all of those awful things, right? So I know this is another one I'm very much keeping a close eye.
But I will tell you, there's one for reading right now, and they want to assess kindergarten through 3rd grade 3 times a year for those years to prove whether or not the kid is able to read or not. And then the bill also calls for high dosage tutoring from grades 4 to 9. Personally, I'm opposed to when kids learn to read, the magic of reading inspires them to want to read more. When we start to do assessing of kindergarten through 3rd graders, when we just begun the science of reading in 25, 26, we have to know at least 3 years worth of data before we start adding in further testing. The right to read bill goes from 2020 to 2030. And they always bring up the Mississippi Miracle, which was a 10-year process that went on in the state of Mississippi to raise reading. And they allowed teachers and everybody else to weigh in and to make sure that that was happening. I've heard different stories about what the outcome has been recently with older grades,
But I think that we have to allow the State Department to finish the work that started in that bill and not add any other further assessments, particularly at the K through third grade. Doesn't make any sense to me. And when they're saying one thing about math being reduced, and then they're turning around and adding kindergarten assessments through third grade, doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I did testify against that, and a lot of other people did as well. So we need to watch that.
Watch that for
Yeah.
sure. So it's a very busy legislative session, and I have a feeling policy committee will be very busy soon. But there are some really big ones that could impact our budget.
Yeah, could.
And that
Yeah.
ECS, that free breakfast, and certainly all of that school construction reimbursement funding. The winds are blowing in our direction on
Mhm.
those. So let me
You know, the magnet schools for 770 million and 150 million right now affects us because of magnet school tuitions and things. And that's gonna be an inevitability. So you need to watch that one.
And it's hard.
There's a lot. It's like a fire hose up there. I mean, 14 bills for a hearing yesterday. There were 3 bills the day before the appropriate, and 350 people are on a Zoom or in the building waiting to testify. At 6 o'clock last night, number 35 was testifying.
And
there
then
were-
went till
there-
2 a.m.
I did.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. I mean, who's listening at that?
Mhm.
You know, what's the impact of testimony written? We've submitted a lot of written testimony
Mhm.
from K, individual members on the board at K, the board members. So if you guys can write letters and you can weigh in on written testimony of all the legislators makes all the difference in the world.
Do you have templates and things?
We do.
Yeah.
We can.
Can you share them?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, that is critical because it really is. It's gonna affect all of us one way or the other, and it's gonna affect taxpayers, which right now we know they're exhausted. They don't need to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. You get the templates. Love the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right, last one I have then, and this is probably the
Sorry.
most important one, is lots of work has been happening this past week with bond counsel, with the town financial planner, with Rich, the tax assessor. I just need to start by extending some gratitude. Dave, thank you. You have done a lot of work on this. I'm glad you're retired and have the time to do it. You've been doing it. I really done a ton of work on it. And Laurel, thank you. I know how much time this has been. And Mike Pelton is killing it. That guy is working hard he is working really hard to get this to a place that it's gonna work. We had an excellent meeting. I really appreciated the time with the Board of Selectmen last night. David Eisenthal was there and he presented. If you haven't watched that meeting last night, you should, right? It's up online. It was an hour special meeting. And David Eisenthal presented the bonding table to the Board of Selectmen. Great conversation. I was very happy. It was very well received, I believe, by the Board of Selectmen. And I'm confident at this point that the Board of Selectmen is going to get this in front of the voters. It's headed there. There's a lot of nodding heads last night. This has been a ton of work. I think we're like on the 1 yard line right now. So tomorrow, Laurel and I and Dave and Mike, we're going to be meeting with some marketers from Downs Construction, Mike Serrano, David Eisenthal, and Mike. We're all going to be there. We are going to nail down tomorrow the number that we're going to put into a flyer that will be mailed home to everybody that's going to identify the impact on individual mill rates.
As well as summarize the project.
And so,
all
right.
the information.
mill rate.
Yes, all of the great information, all of the reasons to do this, but also the one that's most important to people, which is what's the cost, right?
Right.
I'm confident that one of the things I'm really excited to share with everybody is that, the town tax assessor, his name is Rich, and has done a great job now of projecting the additional revenue, not what you're paying right now for your property taxes around this table, but new money that's coming in from the Brainerd Place, cars on the Brainerd Place, and the Nordic Spa. Between that and the overhead savings from the consolidation, I think the overall impact, Dave and I are kind of going back and forth on this. I don't want to say the number exactly right now
Yeah,
because
please
it'll
don't.
go out, but I'm just going to say, I believe it is going to be very reasonable. I think it will be something that that isn't gonna be that sticker shock that we were all afraid of might scare people away. So
And we're working really hard to make sure that it's an accurate picture that's weighing all of these layers. And this is where it gets tricky because it's not just how do we predict what our future net grand list will be as a community, but how do we predict what this new revenue is going to look like from Nordic Spa and from Brainerd Place, and how do we layer in the savings from closing a school? And when you kind of how do you be transparent with the community about what they can realistically expect to pay once those things are layered together? So that's been the ongoing work.
go, and then of course it's considering how the bond on the park retires and how water and sewer comes on, and it's so complicated.
A lot of moving parts.
Oh my gosh, it's so, you should watch David Eisenthal's presentation last night because you really get the picture of bands and GANs, and it's just, I mean, to the average person who isn't an MBA, but again, it's kind of similar to what we all do when we get our mortgages, right? You see, you're gonna do a 15-year mortgage, a 30-year mortgage. What's the interest? It's all, and everybody's being very conservative, I will say that.
Yeah.
In any event, it's all coming together tomorrow. Right? So I just want here's what's gonna happen next. It's gonna move very quickly. That information is I'm gonna start sharing it. Mike is gonna do a flyer home to everybody. I'm gonna put that flyer up on the website. Another website, beautiful one, is gonna go up online.
Right.
A lot of information is on the website already.
Sorry, you said a flyer on the website and a new website.
And a new
A website
Which is
about
really
this.
website about this.
Okay.
So soon you're gonna get in your mailboxes this flyer. You're gonna have access to Portland Public Schools website, but then another website that's dedicated entirely to this project. Pamphlets, right? We're gonna start sharing this on social media, putting it on the website. I have an interview with the River East tomorrow. I'm gonna try to get the River East person to do front page for us for next Friday.
Did you invite her to come Monday to Valley View?
I was getting to that,
Oh,
right?
good. Okay.
Monday, I'm gonna sending out an invite to anybody that wants to come see a tour of Valley View and get a look at the current conditions, and as well as the vision for Valley View next Monday. The Monday after that, Gildersleeve. The last week, I'm doing several community forums for the month of March. It's full court press time to really get all of this information out in front of people. So I'm hoping between those community forums, the website, the mailer that's going home, the River East article, and then everybody talking, that we educate people. It's kind of like after tomorrow, we should have all of the information, all of the marketing materials, the beautiful pictures I'm seeing, the renderings, the blocking diagrams, the state reimbursements, the bond question. Go, go. And I'm going to be going. I just hope everybody else is to talk to your friends and neighbors and
Do the Board of Selectmen voted or they're still, yeah.
No, so they won't vote until early April because they need about a month lead up time to the referendum. But we don't want to make the mistake that was made last
No,
time. Have
no,
it
I
vote
agree, yeah.
so early that then we trigger a silent period and
Yeah.
nobody can share information. And
Right. No,
Early
that's
voting on
important that
November.
people ask. Yeah.
Not typically, no. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What role do you see the board playing in any of these forums or any of this PR that you are gonna be doing, Charles?
well, I mean, awareness. Here's what's interesting. I think that if you want to come, great. I don't think you'll be learning anything new. I think you are all very much aware of where we are. You're welcome to come and be there. I hope I'm not alone. Like I want people to come, right? But more importantly, I would just encourage you to talk to your neighbors. Like you all got elected because you were out there campaigning, and I know you met with lots of people who trusted you and voted for you.
So,
Okay.
so door knocking, or, I mean, is there an aspect of that part of public relations beyond the forums and beyond the informational piece that's gonna go in the River East and the newspaper articles? Because I think that board members are vested in this plan as well. We voted on it, and we should be front and center to the process as well, not just, you're the face of the school consolidation, but I think the board needs to be really involved somehow in getting that word out. And it could be door knocking, it could be, setting up a table with information at Adams And I'd like to talk more about how we can support that. That you're not the lone voice, you know what I'm saying? I think that's really critical, because I think we're all vested in this. We've all put in a huge amount of time, we've read all the documents, we've listened to all the testimony, you know, we've had 3 or 4 different committees. I know Kim and Dave have, you know, done the last one, Laurel, and, you know, and before Dave and I had done the first 2. I think we really are all vested in seeing that this goes through, because it is a good plan, and we need to get behind it, and we need to get behind Charles at this point. It's a- it's a-
Piggyback on what you're saying, the neighborhood thing I've already got earmarked in my mind, because we may think everybody's on Facebook, but I know several
They're
people
not.
that aren't.
They're
We
not.
may think everybody reads the River East, but I know several people that don't. So I've already talked to a couple of my neighbors and they don't know anything that's going on.
Right.
And they probably wouldn't unless I mentioned it. So if you're marked that, I got one
100%.
neighbor that's got 2 kids under 5.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna go down and explain to them, your kids are gonna be the beneficiary of this.
Find those
You
people.
know, but we need you on May 11th.
and 2 years ago, we found people over at Paley Farms that came to the area, not even having children yet. They're not even born, but they came because of the school system. And they were gonna wanna be able to make sure that we're doing our due diligence as a board with the superintendent to make sure that we are continuing to have great schools when their kids are ready to go.
Is the
So I
Valley
think-
View and Gildersleeve thing, is that for the public or that's?
For the public.
interest? So is there a flyer, like,
How are they?
you
doing
have
it?
your forums, and I shared that in different groups and part of that, because I received it first as a parent. And then was like, yes, we can share this,
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
I wanna make posts now of, like, I
Absolutely.
just wrote all these things out.
Yeah,
Is there a
here's what
flyer?
here's what I think you should do. Wait, as soon as we're done with this meeting tomorrow, the professional marketers are gonna finish the pamphlet and the flyer and the
Then,
website.
okay.
As soon as we have that, I'll give it to you. Right? And then I think it's time to share it, right? In that flyer, the big one, a flyer is going to be in everybody's mailbox. I'm not sure when Mike has it in mind to send that yet, but we'll have it tomorrow.
Something just came in my map about,
Unrelated.
I know, I know, but
Yeah.
a flyer has
Yeah.
come about another
That's-
town thing, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you,
No, I
you know, I
know.
think. Let's get all the promotional materials together, share it with you, and then, you know, at our next meeting, or even before our next meeting, if you have neighbors and friends and are out at any event.
Yeah, but in the meantime, the
Maybe,
first
yeah.
event is Monday at Valley View, and it is open to the whole community
time?
and to help spread the word,
Which one?
6 p.m. at Valley View.
So where
I don't
has
have-
that been
Did
publicized?
that come out
On the
on
website, and mostly Parent Square.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where was
But
that?
the
in
community
Lansing?
at large hasn't gotten word of it.
no, see that was the
It
kind
did
of,
go out in Mike's
Elton's email or. update.
email and Facebook updates. So it is out on
I think it
Facebook, I
has to be
believe.
broader than
But
that.
it also went out to every family through Parent Square. It was in every school newsletter this past Friday. So, you know, even if it's just at this point, you know, we got to start somewhere, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
yes, let's
Yeah.
spread the word further. But when, at the point that the flyer does go out in a more broad scale way, it will have the remaining public meeting dates on it so that people will have that information.
So
Could
some
someone
of us are
submit
not
that to
parents
the River
per
Read?
se. We don't
Hold on.
always get the parent
No, well,
emails on Parent Square.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything about
I
a
saw it.
visit.
it came to the board, your board of ed email, for sure.
Okay, then I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's probably
But I
there.
would recommend, because this is, for me, mostly, is another reminder on Monday.
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna do another
People
reminder.
forget something a week ago.
Sure,
So-
sure.
Tomorrow, I think we're gonna talk
Can't
about
fix
calendar
that.
tonight, so big news to break tomorrow about calendar changes potentially, depending on.
And you'll include a reminder on
And,
Monday.
so that's gonna go in the newsletter through Parent Square directly from me in a post, in an email, in a text, and kind of like the way you know, we've
Yeah.
been hearing a lot of those lately. So we'll start getting the word out. I think that, you know, the River East article, I'm hoping,
That's
a
gonna help.
week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then the flyer in the mail is gonna reach people, but, you know, from there, that flyer, I'm thinking maybe if there's any bulletin boards around town, the library.
well, again, that would be
Adams,
considered,
you know,
that we
like-
have to
Yeah.
make.
But as soon as I have the flyer, there's a bulletin board at Malili's. I think it's time to get them out there and start, and I'll.
Quick note on that flyer, because John and I talked ahead, and he made a good suggestion, and maybe you're planning to do this. Once you get that flyer, pull a couple people that know nothing about what's going on have them read it, because we're so close to it.
Yeah.
That we know this, they may say, well, this doesn't make sense. or,
Yeah.
I don't understand that,
Makes a lot of sense.
and you need to do that before it goes out.
I think that's a very
I
good
think
point.
the other thing we have to talk about is the potentially negative comments that are gonna come and not responding to them. Because if we go down that rabbit hole again, where people are making up stories or putting things on, and we take it upon ourselves or our friends take it upon themselves to get into that argument, that's not gonna do us any good. So I think you focus on the positive and, and tell people, just don't answer, there's gonna be plenty of comments, which there are about a lot of things like school closings or snow days or whatever it is. And I think you just can't.
I was gonna mention something similar.
Absolutely
You
can.
also have to understand that there's going to be no's.
Mhm.
And there are people, no matter if we said it was free, they would probably say no. So we gotta, don't let that dissuade us, from the goal.
And if you try to win an argument on social media with somebody who doesn't have the correct information, you're not gonna win that argument. And we know what happened
I
last
think,
time.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is on us to share as
Positive.
accurate information and as much of it as possible, as broadly as possible. I think that is certainly on each of us to work on that. Sarah, you were trying to say something
Yeah.
earlier.
I
just
think
wanted to get back to you.
historically, our first selectman has also been able to put things in the River East in the
Yes.
Portland section.
Yeah.
So hopefully Mike could do that and maybe include any remaining dates.
He was talking about, actually, he did just mention that to me last
Yeah,
week, that he was
okay.
working on a River East update and was hoping to include the
yeah,
dates for,
sorry.
yeah. So I can loop back with him and make sure that's gonna go in
Yeah, and we'll also cover it tomorrow at our,
in your interview.
in our meeting with, 8:30 tomorrow.
Yes, yes.
So stay tuned. It's all happening. It's gonna go
Great.
quick. Get ready.
Cool.
Oh, just a weird thought.
Yeah.
Can we do this? Can we send a flyer home with each kid?
You could.
We absolutely can before we get to the
The silent
silent period. So as soon as this colorful, the trifold is gonna go home in mailboxes. If at the point that the colorful one, the flat flyer is ready, maybe that's one that we can send home in folders.
Do we have a date for the silent period or not?
I don't think that the date of the vote is set yet. I believe that they're still nailing down for sure what the date of the referendum is, and from there we'll work backwards and set a date. So,
Okay.
And then
It might be worth
Pending.
targeting daycares. There's a lot of home
Daycares,
daycares and that's a small. Like they have, let's say, 6 kids. And
Yeah,
if you can get
that's a
that
great
home
idea.
daycare mom to
Mm-hmm.
tell the people and the Little Bears daycare.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. Great.
Yeah, as the mom with the 2 under 3, I mean, yes,
Wait,
we are
you-
here
you-
for the schools.
Danny.
Anybody wants to sit outside the delivery room?
I mean, I'm a
I-
doula, so
I-
where do you want me to go?
That's your built-in constituency.
There's bulletin boards and hospitals.
But
I'm happy to reach out to the at-home daycares.
Bridge.
I think that's a
great
idea to set up a table and do something at Adams.
Yeah.
On a Saturday morning, people go and get out, or, Starbucks or whatever, to have that conversation.
Box tops.
That's all I have. Thank you. That was a
Great.
lot,
Thank you.
but all important stuff. So
We all want
we're
this
going
to
quick.
succeed, and I know we can all put our heads together and come up with some good ideas.
And I think before we get to that silent period, we need to have a discussion because I think it's a very gray area. It's not like we can't say anything. We can
Correct.
say certain things,
Yeah.
informative stuff, but we can't say that we make
can't
somebody
vote
make
there.
a decision.
Go to
You
the-
gotta vote for yes.
Yeah, when the silent period starts, that's a good point, Dave. It doesn't mean we can't say anything. It's just what we say has to be reviewed by bond council.
Right.
And we have to
Oh.
be careful about not spending any district or
Correct.
town resources. That's really what it comes down to. So Charles really needs to just
Yeah.
zip it at that point. Each of us as individuals are certainly capable of continuing to advocate for whatever we believe as individuals. We don't give up our right to free speech. But we can't, continue to try and have a discussion at the board table about how we're gonna market this because we'd be utilizing district resources. So that would be a violation. So we have to
Do we
be,
have any-
we have to be more careful is really what it
Do
comes
we
down
have
to.
any approval rights to what the referendum is actually, how will be worded? So we make sure it's accurate and not
So,
misleading.
Mike Pelton was meeting today with bond counsel and Mike Serrano was gonna be at the table with him to be part of that conversation and make sure that it
That's
really
good.
accurately reflected our anticipated state reimbursement.
So yes,
Yeah,
that was
that's-
happening today, and I haven't seen that language, draft language yet. Have you?
Not yet. I think
Okay.
he needed one more thing from Mike's room.
Okay.
See
Soon.
you tomorrow. Yep, tomorrow's a big day.
We have some friends that want to raise some money privately as
Let's-
supporters of the consolidation plan.
Sure.
Maybe some signs that say yes.
That's
Would be
a
in that.
conversation probably not to happen at the board table, but yes, I think that there's,
Right, because we can't spend board
Yep.
money on any of that
Yeah.
emotional stuff, but.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good thing to seek out some friends of.
all right, I'm gonna keep us moving. We're gonna move to new business. The first item is discussion of the school calendar for this current school year. So Charles, I believe you have some.
Yes.
some points for us.
That first, on behalf of me and every superintendent in the state,
Yeah.
thank you for everyone's patience. This has been an incredibly challenging year. And some of the calls this year were pieces of cake, like blizzards hitting you. Some of them were really tough.
Yeah.
I think I've been up at 4 a.m. every morning for the
Yeah.
past weeks. In any event, if we don't change the calendar at all, our last school day would be Tuesday, June 23rd. That's what you see on here. We know that's tough in our schools because they're so dang hot. It gets really uncomfortable in our schools in that time of year. It's been as cold this winter. I have a feeling we're gonna be having some hot June days. I thought about, what if we had been able to give back a day from April vacation, we would have clawed one of those back. I put the survey out. The majority of people liked the idea, not a strong majority, but the problem was 24% of our teachers indicated they have vacations. And I don't want to get in the game of like, show me your tickets and prove to me you bought them, right?
Mhm.
I'm not going down that road. I trust that 24% of people, we can't run our schools with that number of absences. It's not safe. So I'm not comfortable recommending that we give up any of the April vacation days. I am, however, comfortable recommending that next Friday's week from tomorrow's, that's why we're meeting tonight, it's quick, PD day, that we convert that into a regular school day for kids and that we make it a 2-hour delayed open. Interestingly enough, I just got an email from my kids' superintendent in Wallingford saying they did the exact
Doing
same
the same
thing. Their school day, their PD day was March 11th. So this isn't unprecedented. I think a lot of districts are doing this. And I know people would be willing to agree to do that. That would then, if you change the calendar, and I have a motion for you to do that, that would make our last school day Monday, the 22nd. As a side note, I am fully aware that the June 19th day, we will be here. Now, I think it's a great thing. The law is written in the same way for June 19th as it is for Veterans Day, that if you have kids in school on Veterans Day, you have to do activities around veterans. And we have a pool assembly with veterans here every year. We can have kids in school June 19th, and we're going to do some really cool activities celebrating June 19th, educating students about what it is. And I also am very excited about that because the very next day, they do the big Juneteenth celebration here on the Saturday. So we
At the
can,
middle school, right?
the middle school, so we
Yeah.
can help make it look nice and do some fun things. So we would still have kids in school on June 19th, and I already have Chuck Hirschon working with our social studies teachers and curriculum specialists to design the activities for that.
I do have a question. Did you consider dropping one of the days and making it 180-day school year? I know some of the districts.
We already
I
did
talked to-
We did that already because of the sewage day.
So that would create a problem for our secondary schools. Remember, the
Okay.
secondary schools lost a day.
Right.
So that would leave them with only 179 days if we dropped another day.
Right. So, okay.
I know in New York, they forgave a day. They gave all schools a free day. Also, my only question about the June 19th celebration is final exams.
Right.
I would hate to see a kid have an exam on Monday, the 22nd,
Mhm.
after having a celebration day. That's gonna get kind of hard for a kid to, maintain focus through exams. Maybe we can make sure they're before.
I'll work with Kate. We'll get,
Just that, yeah, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't want kids to get all excited and then.
yeah,
Dylan has something to add.
they don't have exams.
We haven't done exam.
Oh,
But that last day, there might be some final assessments. I was gonna, it's not like do you guys have the 2.5 hour day, like full exam days, that you book the whole day special?
not in the middle school, but I.
We don't do that here, but they do have final assessments of projects, and some classes have final tests. It's just not an exam day.
Okay,
But there are still exams. It's just different, but we can work around those.
okay.
And then do we have to make up any PD hours that are going to, are we gonna be short, or staff gonna be short PD hours?
We're not, but it is important that we make the 2 hour delay on the Friday. Because we do have some important work happening at the Valley View and Gildersleeve. It's some math assessments. They're doing some restorative practice training at the Brownstone and the middle school, but it's really a high school needs time for their NEAS accreditation. So we'll still meet the statutory obligation for the 19 hours of PD, but the time is needed for those activities. That's why if we did a regular day with a 2 hour delayed opening, we can get those in and still have kids here and recruit.
I imagine it is a little tricky with parents, for a lot of parents, knowing that there is a 2 hour delay, just, a week and a half later. That is a little bit tricky, to ask for that, but I do understand what you're
Planning the
saying.
day off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's different, it's
Yeah,
different childcare arrangements, right? If you've got a whole
Oh,
day off
totally.
versus a 2 hour delay.
Yeah.
And I am gonna also say, parents, we're gonna be flexible with that. If some people have that big ski vacation planned for that weekend, or I don't know, I doubt it, but I don't want to signal that attendance isn't important or that don't, I mean, but
But we know that some people have been planning on that day off all year.
Right.
Yeah.
so
So
Yeah.
if we're in school on the 19th, is the last day of the 22nd.
22nd.
And what happens if we have more snow days?
then we go to the 23rd or the 24th or the 25th or something.
But I do want to acknowledge that we are treating Veterans Day and Juneteenth differently. We had Veterans Day off.
Right,
Yeah.
well, but Veterans Day, you could have kids in school.
Right, it just feels important to acknowledge that,
Right.
like Juneteenth is a very important day so. I just. And then it's my understanding that Good Friday and Memorial Day, like, though, there's other days to play with here. Those we can't do a late
Good
start.
Friday and Memorial Day are they're in our contract.
They're in our contract. Okay.
And that's a good point. The Juneteenth is now in some of our,
Right,
those days we make what's called a floating holiday.
okay.
Because we're still negotiating some that aren't in effect yet, for the two that have gone into effect. Okay,
So people could have made that day off. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, it is all complicated. I'm glad we have more dates in June to work with, given this has been a tough winter, but I just do want to reiterate that it is, what is in the back of my head is concern for our students and our teachers who are teaching in buildings that get incredibly hot. Looking at 5th grade at FIS in particular. And it worries me that every day further we go into June, it worries me we run into days where we're having to close early because it's just not safe in that upstairs at FIS. So I think that this is as good of a compromise that we're gonna arrive at by pulling back that March 13th day. And hoping that we don't have any more bad weather days and that we can done.
With the same, we're gonna wait. Days to. And the last thing is because some of these usually stuff. But we can meet with it. Not, summer camp and.
I think we can expect that
We can expect.
families will make individual decisions.
Here. It's high school and square. I don't know what date that can't start. I don't know about.
But
Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 24th. Providing we're done with school. Let's be real. I mean,
Yeah, setting up. Yep.
Well, pulling the day back then gives us a buffer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Over
That's why we're
parts
hoping
that
for
we
the
can
nice
set up for
tonight.
something.
Yeah,
Tonight's
that's
the
a
last
good
one. I'm like
That's a good
looking at
point.
tonight, might be at the tomorrow, but
It
it
might
doesn't look
be,
like
yeah.
a closure. After that,
I-
70 degrees are here, like.
Yeah.
come on, look at that. It's-
Well, we
Can't
can
do
just
this.
go on and see what happens in the next couple of weeks with that.
Well,
Well, we
then we
can't leave it
can't.
alone because if we want to reclaim that March day, we have to
Oh,
decide that now.
that's why we're here.
Yeah. And it is very clear now, given staff responses, that we're not gonna consider pulling April vacation days. So that March 13th day really is the only day between now and the end of the year that we. I think Charles is asking us tonight to make a decision about the March 13th date. And to set the new last day of school as, for the moment. All the things, as June 22nd.
The only thing I would say going forward is that if this is the new winter from Connecticut and Portland, that we might consider making our school year 182 days, giving us a buffer, because we did that in the past where we added days in and took the days away. As we got closer and when spring came and we didn't have bad weather, we were able to move the last day of school closer to the beginning of June as opposed to waiting until we end up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. but
And I
I
think-
don't know that I would recommend adding school days on, but what I do think there's a couple of things that I'm gonna bring to you at some point. I really wanna get your approval on a 3-hour. Right, and a 3-hour early dismissal. Because there was one day this year where if we had that third hour instead of the 2-hour. right? And the other thing is, I do know on some districts, they put on, right on the calendar.
Yeah.
If
Here's
we
the
have
plan.
more than 5 days, this is what we do.
Exactly.
If we have more than
Mm.
10
And
days,
that's
this is
fine.
what we do. I think that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
I've seen a few of those
We
just in the
actually have-
aftermath from the last storm, and it's making me think that maybe we want to have that not now, but
Not
on a
now.
different time, let's have that conversation about, do we set an expectation around pulling back April vacation days if we've gone over a certain number of snow days by a certain date? At least then we've been transparent and communicated that from the beginning of the year.
We
I
also
think that's
had,
hard.
days where. we had
It's
night
definitely not
off.
easy.
Yeah.
We also had a calendar when we had Fridays off because we didn't extend the number of snow days. And so we did 2 or 3 Fridays in May, I believe, or June, and the days were, they did early release days where they were days off. So, and there's a lot of ways.
So I think there's different models we could
Yeah.
consider, and maybe we'll set that as an agenda item in the future to look at how we might want to address that in a way that
Yeah.
staff and community feels is communicated clearly ahead of time.
Make a motion tonight for the 3-hour delay,
I'll run through that tonight, yeah.
because just to save us, what if next week the 3-hour would save us from tomorrow, you know what I mean? If it's a decision of 3 hours or closing. save us, You know, like, is it that big of a decision to?
Yeah, I gotta give it a little bit more thought, because I gotta work with the bus company, I still gotta sit down with the principals, I got I gotta herd some cats before I'm ready to go. I definitely don't wanna do that in a knee-jerk way, but it's gonna be, there's so many logistics that it sounds easy, and it is easy, but it's gonna require a little communication on my part before I'm ready to put that in.
That's fair, and it's additional.
And we have pre-K and we have mini buses and, it's logistics.
Then for the
Right, so
future.
We're like Amazon.
conversation-
We got, a lot of moving parts every day.
For the future calendars and conversation, I would like to then consider treating Veterans Day and Juneteenth the same. Go to school on Veterans Day. That's a future buffer.
We talked about that. Yeah, we've already approved the calendar for next year, but every year we do it again. We can
We can revisit it.
I think we need to revisit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion
Yes,
to
please.
convert Friday, March 13th from a professional development day for staff to a 2-hour delay day opening?
And you just, the rest of it too, to set the last day of school.
And is it the last day of school for Monday, June 22nd?
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a second? Seconded by Annie. Any further discussion?
Is there a way to add, to acknowledge that we're going to school on the 19th? And doing, like, be really clear about that we're doing educational about June. like that needs to be. So I was getting parent questions and confusion around. Is this a federal holiday? This is an important day. What's happening here? I don't think everybody knows that veterans and Juneteenth can be treated that way.
Sure.
Have to be, right?
Yeah.
That's the state law.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So Sarah, would you consider amending your motion? I think what I'm hearing is, would you consider amending your motion? Motion?
We were in discussion of.
Just to reflect that that we will be in school on the 19th and students will participate in educational programming related to Juneteenth.
Yep.
And I'll make an amendment that we will be in school on Friday, June 19th, and students will be participating in relevant programs related to Juneteenth.
Thank you. And Annie, do you accept that second? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so motion has been made and seconded and amended. Any further discussion? Good. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and thank you all for collaboration on that. Excellent. All right, calendar is fixed. All right, we are moving on to new business item B. This is the Portland Public Schools Integrated Test Management Plan
Very-
2026.
Very quick on this one,
Yeah.
bugs and mice and other things, right? So this year, Bob did a ton of work. He did all these safety audits that were required to do by the Office of Policy Management, but he did a lot of work, communicated out to the Buildings and Grounds Committee, the results of those safety assessments. One of the things we need to update is our pest management plan, which I did include in your packet here. If anybody wants to see a copy of it, it's how we make sure we're training and otherwise managing the critters. It's pretty straightforward. It's from a template the state provides. It's what we do.
Just sounded like you were training critters, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, the way you phrased it, framed that.
But it's clear we
Yeah.
don't use certain pesticides, we're not gonna get anybody sick. I'm sorry.
No, no,
Wait, I know. I'm
We're getting
off
the
mark.
training, we are treating the critters, it's fine.
We have to notify parents, do we not? Or we have to put it somewhere on
Yeah,
the website or
we'll-
whatever that we are using certain
well, we're not using.
or not
Pesticides.
using.
We don't use anything that's gonna create
On
any
the
harm.
chemicals or whatever.
It's more about managing. And the
Yeah.
goal here is to plug holes and, not eat food in classrooms and do all the things we need to do so that we're not attracting
Yeah,
the things. So, but it does say in here, we don't use pesticides unless it's a special circumstance where we have a mass infestation. And then we're gonna come to this board and get approval for it.
and the community would be
And the
notified.
community would be
Mhm.
notified at that. So this says we don't unless you approve. it. So it's a good plan. I'm very comfortable with it.
Who's many bills first and last?
Yeah, we saw that.
I did catch that. I just feel that's cleaned up.
This is the correct version.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks for noticing.
Bob has.
Yeah,
it.
Bob's gonna clean it up.
That's right.
We don't have to vote on it, we just. have to go with it.
Oh, we'd like you to.
I think we do have to vote to accept it, yep.
So I can make a motion to recommend to the Board of Education the approval of the integrated pest management plan as presented.
Thank you, Kim. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
that.
Seconded by Meg. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And thank you to Bob for his work on that. Excellent. We're going to move on to some Board of Education policies. There are 5 policies. These are a first read, so we are not asking you to take action on them. And we'll talk through each of them. The first 4 is it's just really quick cleanup. And then the 5th one is a replacement of our current policy. So let's start with policy 0521, non-discrimination.
Yeah, so this is very quick, just a language change. It updates the definition or a new category of people that we are not allowed to discriminate against.
It's right here.
All right, good. And specifically, that adds to that. We will not discriminate against, in addition to the other categories, a victim of sexual assault or status as a victim of trafficking in persons. So that is a new protected category.
Any questions about that?
Do we not need to include that in the first sentence? Was this Kate's
This
recommendation?
is the CABE recommendation based on legislative change. So we believe that that covers it. Any other questions? Nope, that's an easy one. All right, policy 6161.12 should look familiar to you because we just looked at it and adopted it two months ago, 3 months ago. This is the library material review and reconsideration, and CABE sent, actually the next 3 policies we're looking at, this one of the next 2 are the library policies that we recently adopted. There is a paragraph a new paragraph in red. In each of these policies, the language is identical, and it's language that we are legally required to include in our policy. It probably ought to have been in there, the draft language that we originally received, and for whatever reason it wasn't.
Like all the legal references have to be rounded as of June, because we have other policies ahead of time. June 30, 2027 is when the legislation was passed and signed.
Any questions? So quickly, because this is literally identical language. This is 6161.12, 6161.13, and 6161.14. Questions on any of those 3?
No questions, but I appreciate seeing it in the red changes so
Yeah.
clearly. It makes it really.
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, if there's no questions on any of those will come back for a second read next, at our 2 weeks at our next meetings. Okay, so then policy, the last one, policy 1312, public complaints. This is a rip and replace. Because we found when we were cleaning up the library policies that provide a really nice, clear, clean process for members of the public or of the community to, or staff or whoever, to challenge library materials. We wanted to also look at our public complaint policy, and we found that what we have currently on file is just a little odd. It's got some strange language in it. It kind of looks like it was like Frankenstein together a little bit. The policy itself is just not a very good policy. So we went and looked at the CABE model policy, which was shorter, a little more succinct. Meg, did you want to add anything about what, about that?
No, but it ties into the complaints about any curricular activities or library materials, or it's pretty extensive. And it's separate from people challenging books in libraries and library displays.
Mm.
But it's also important to have this spelled out for general complaints. So I think it's very important to have.
So we preferred this language to what we currently have on file, but you all can take your time and kind of read this one. It's very short. The policy itself is very short, and read what we currently have. The one we currently have has some strange language about how materials should be evaluated. Do they reflect real life in its true proportions? It's like very strange language. So yeah, really.
What is that?
I don't know. Which is why it didn't really make sense to me that it's an old policy. It's old policy language. So we liked that this one was very succinct, and that it's clear that complaints are really about chain of command, and that, members of the public who come to the board with a complaint should be redirected to, the place that's closest to the problem, and informed on how to escalate from there if they need support, beyond, from teacher to building principal to superintendent to board. So we thought it was very clear.
I'm confused actually, because this first 2 paragraphs and some of the third are very generic and just talk about complaints.
Mhm.
Yet this form is all about materials in the library, basically. So I want to
So-
complain about something else, which is telling me in the first 2 paragraphs, the
Mm.
form does not relate to that.
So this form does relate to that. This form is not actually meant for library materials. There is a separate form in the library complaint policy that is specific for library materials. This is meant to be used for, like, there's a book in my kid's classroom that I'm not happy with, or there's a handout that they came home with related to Thanksgiving, and I don't like the way this was addressed, and I'm not getting an answer that I like from my child's teacher. So now there's a place for me to find a form to
But it's
submit this.
material related, and that
Mhm.
doesn't say anything in the first 2 paragraphs about just material related. you're not
There
happy
is a
with
line for
the
other.
fact that something else, you know what I mean? There's not, it makes it sound like it's a general complaint form, but it's not, just
Like
about.
complain about traffic or complain about anything about the grounds, I mean, that this doesn't seem to be. For that purpose, so do you think those two paragraphs should be more specific? To complain about curriculum, to complain about what's
The
happening.
form does not does not match the text.
Let's bring it back to Paul.
We can take a look at that and see if there's a way to make it.
Well, and I think that you're right, because the last paragraph says the proper channel on matter related. Discipline, instruction, and instructional materials should be given to the teacher. But the complaint's not, so, and you're right, this.
This doesn't let
I
you
thought
do
this too when I
discipline.
looked at the form. It looks like we're talking about books and videos and resources. And there are other complaints about other,
Not discipline or instruction.
yeah, I think we need to look at this again. Yeah.
We can certainly look at how the form relates to the policy.
I mean, someone
Um,
might be complaining because their child celebrates Hanukkah and we didn't talk about Hanukkah in a way, or we talked about.
You want to add more to
I
the
mean, I think
actual
it
form.
needs to, yeah, I think,
You know, say public
to
complaint
review.
regarding materials or whatever the word verbiage, I think
Or-
of what that is.
Okay.
Read a book about St.
I
Patrick
think-
and we're not celebrating St. Patrick, so I'm gonna complain about it because I want my child to be removed from that class, or I think we have to be a little bit more specific.
Or do you want a line on this form that says discipline?
Something
and
else.
The other additional thing, not just print, audio, visual.
I think, I mean, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of those kinds of complaints happen all the time and very naturally in conversation, you know, like I'm gonna call up my kid's teacher and have a conversation about this thing that I heard about that I'm confused or I want to know more.
And
and
if
I'm-
it's not,
you know what I mean? Like
not
it-
resolved.
Exactly, like that maybe that's not something I would need a form for, because I'm gonna have a conversation, and then if I'm needing more information or more support, I'm gonna go to the building principal. You know, a couple years ago, it seemed to me as a parent that Valley View was not, my Valley View student was never going outside for recess in the cold months. And so I, you know, started with a conversation with the teacher. From there, it ended up a conversation with the principal. I needed to have a better understanding of what, you know, what are they looking at? And I needed to be heard that like, it really feels like my kid never goes outside, right? So, but it had to be a conversation. I didn't need a form to fill that out and say, this is what I'm seeing. You know what I'm saying?
Then.
So I think
then
that
it does
sometimes
say that,
you need
so-
a form and sometimes you need a
Yeah.
conversation.
Right, so I think that's the Dave's point, is just that this says
That
it's a public
sentence.
complaint form.
So
But
be
it's
more
really-
clear with the form.
It's a specific form for a specific type of complaint.
Yeah,
It's in
because
a
then it
general-
lists discipline and instruction and these other things,
Also,
right?
you
Yeah.
look at the references to other policies, it is very specific, library material review, freedom of speech, diversity. And then the last one is equipment, books, material,
Yeah.
and provision selection. So again, we're looking at curricular materials as opposed to a complaint about something that could be dealt in a different way. I think we need to rewrite this.
Okay.
piece with that.
So,
Yeah.
so we will revisit this at our next policy meeting to talk about how the policy relates to the form, or if the form needs some tweaking to make sure that it
It's the third
works.
paragraph.
I think
It's
it is.
confusing.
Okay,
That and the references, and the other policies.
Well, I think for me, I'm just thinking about all the different reasons somebody
Mhm.
really might complain. When do you say, okay, there's a form for you to complete?
Yeah.
for that?
Right,
First
right.
is, okay, that's called the superintendent. So
Yeah.
I think that's,
That
when
might
is
be
this form?
Yours, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's,
the purpose of, that's all.
And maybe,
Clarifying
maybe
that.
general complaint procedure.
that's
is
a good
probably-
question.
The title is not as good.
I just want to complain.
okay.
That's kind of that. But I think the title might be on just general complaint procedure, and then it's very specific to library materials.
Okay, all right, we'll take a look at that.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Thanks for hearing our complaint.
Yeah, you fill out the form, right?
I will,
We have a form for that.
but it doesn't have a checkbox, so I guess you don't. want to complain. Other
There is-
duties
there
is
is-
assigned.
So the first 4 policies on this list will be on our agenda for
We
a
just need a
second
couple.
read. We will pull 1, 3, 1, 2
Additional
off and revisit that as a
Back to
policy
I
committee.
think that's a good idea.
All right, good. We do not have anything else for new business. We do not have any old business.
I move,
There a motion to adjourn.
move to adjourn.
Thank you, Aaron. Seconded by Meg. Any discussion?
As
All
long as we don't put everything that we didn't do this week. on-
Agreed.
Wait.
Agreed.
Okay, so I have plans.
All in favor,
Yeah.
we are adjourning. Aye.